Hello students, welcome to my lecture. In my previous lecture, I have discussed about intra-industry trade and its significance. Today, I shall discuss about the when for surplus and the availability approach. Now, these are part of MOOC of international trade. Now, let us first discuss what is this when for surplus theory. The when for surplus theory of international trade was formulated by economist Adam Smith. The theory was later revised by economist La Mint of Southeast Asia. The theory states that when a country produces goods or services more than it can consume, then it produces a surplus. Now, this kind of underutilization causes an inward movement of goods and services produced within the given economy. International trade with another country is then used to vent off the surplus goods or services so as to bring production possibilities frontier back to its full state. Now, let us first understand where the origin of this vent of surplus theory came from. Now, Adam Smith has introduced the idea that trade allows countries to utilize their surplus resources efficiently. Following him, La Mint expanded the theory in the mid 20th century, focusing on how trade facilitates economic development in underdeveloped nations. Firstly, let us understand certain concepts of this theory. The first one is surplus resources. Now, what are surplus resources? These are resources that are idle or underutilized in the absence of sufficient domestic demand, such as uncultivated land, unemployed or underemployed labor, or we can say untapped natural resources. The second concept can be said as international trade as a vent. Now, this goes that by opening up trade with other countries, these surplus resources can be directed towards producing goods for export. Hence, these exports provide a vent or outlet for surplus resources. The third one is what is economic transformation. Now, revenues from export generates income for workers and businesses, and this in turn stimulates investment and promotes economic development. Now, let us understand what this theory is all about. So, the theory states that if a country produces more than it absorbs, it definitely has a surplus. In the absence of international trade, a surplus domestic productive capacity will be unutilized or underutilized its natural resources and labor resources. In addition, the process of absorption may be slow. The international trade can absorb the surplus of production without creating any adverse effects upon poor countries. The export of surplus product will create new effective demand for the products of the less developed countries. The international trade absorbs the surplus domestic production and prevents any likely slump in the home market, creates market for product abroad, and permit the imports of essential products. In this way, the vent of surplus theory states that international trade cannot be an obstacle but an opportunity for accelerating the process of growth. La Mint, therefore, considered the vent for surplus theory a more appropriate for the less developed countries than the principle of comparative cost advantages. Mint, however, made some points in this regard. In less developed countries, the utilized and underutilized resources exist in large numbers. In such situation, the production can be increased with the surplus and it results in new discoveries. Most of the less developed countries suffer with the problem of poverty. Therefore, these market size Therefore, their market size is very limited with the international trade. They not only underutilize their surplus in an effective manner, they not only utilize their surplus in an effective manner but can also expand the market size. The went for surplus approach helps in increasing the mobility of labor and specific factor of production and gives a way out from serious impediments. The approach also permits the monetary and fiscal authorities to adopt measures suitable for expansion of exports. In this way, we can say that the approach is more effective than the traditional comparative cost theory. Now, let us understand the mechanism of the when for surplus theory. Initial conditions. Now, in many developed countries, resources remain underutilized due to low domestic demand or inefficient economic systems. For example, vast tracts of fertile land may not be cultivated because of low For example, vast tract of fertile land may not be cultivated because the local market cannot absorb the output. Secondly, the introduction of trade. When a country engages in international trade, it gains access to foreign markets. The export demand stimulates the production of goods, for example, cash crops, raw materials, etc., using these previously idle resources. Economic growth. The mobilization of surplus resources leads to higher production, employment, and income levels. Also, this growth lays the foundation for industrialization and diversification over time. Let us now discuss about the various assumptions of this theory. The first assumption is of underutilized resources. The economy must have surplus resources available for mobilization. So whenever we have resources, those resources can be used and mobilized for production. International market access. There must be a demand for the country's exports in foreign markets. So if there is demand from the foreign markets, then only this when for surplus theory can take place. Third one is trade facilitation. Trade policies or agreements need to enable the exchange of goods. Let us discuss certain examples of when for surplus in practice. First one is colonial economies. In the 19th century, colonies like India and Africa used surplus land and labor to grow cash crops, example, cotton, tea, coca, for export to industrialized nations. Secondly, Southeast Asia. Now, countries like Malaysia and Indonesia utilized surplus resources to produce and export rubber, palm oil, and other raw materials during the 20th century. If I am to give you some modern examples, it can be like African nations exporting natural resources like mineral oil to the global markets. Now let us understand certain strengths of this when for surplus theory. Now the first strength is resource utilization. This theory actually encourages the productive use of previously idle resources. Secondly, there is integration with the global markets. This theory links the underdeveloped economies with the global demand and hence it fosters growth. Thirdly, revenue generation. This theory helps in bringing exports which bring in the foreign exchange, enabling investments in infrastructure and industry. Now let us discuss various criticisms and limitations of this theory. The first one is dependency on exports. Over-reliance on primary goods can make economies vulnerable to price fluctuations in the global markets. Number 2, resource depletion. Excessive focus on exports may lead to unsustainable resource use. Third, neglect of domestic needs. Export-oriented growth might sideline local industries and domestic consumption. Fourth, unequal distribution of benefits. Now, the gains of trade from export-driven growth may primarily benefit the landowners or the elites, encouraging inequality among various sections of the people. Next, let us understand certain applications and examples of this theory. Now, if we are to consider the case studies of countries, 19th century colonial economies exports raw materials such as sugar, cotton, tea, etc. Again, post-independence development strategies in the Southeast Asia can also be an example. Modern applications in African economies exporting minerals and agricultural goods. Let us now see various policy implications of this theory. Now, the first one is the need for balanced development strategies. This theory can combine economic growth with domestic market and hence there is stimulation in the domestic market. Sustainable resource management. Now, this helps to avoid overexploitation and invest in long-term productivity. Diversification. There is shift from primary goods to manufactured and value-added products over time. Now, let me conclude this theory. Ultimately, we can say that the when for surplus remains a vital concept in understanding early stages of economic development. While beneficial, its success depends on sound policies, sustainable practices, and eventual diversification. Hence, in this part of my lecture, we have understood about what is this when for surplus theory, certain key concepts associated with this theory, the mechanism of the when for surplus theory, the assumptions of this theory, strengths of this theory, various criticisms and applications with examples, and the conclusion. Thank you. Now, we have already discussed about the when for surplus theory. Next, we come to a very important theory in international trade, that is the availability approach. Now, what is the availability approach? The availability approach in international trade is often referred to as the Crevis theory of availability. It is attributed to Irving B. Crevis. It is an important extension of international trade theory given by Hector Olin is the availability approach to international trade. Now, this approach was given by Irving B. Crevis in 1956. The availability approach to international trade focuses on how the availability of goods within a country determines trade patterns. This theory is particularly useful for understanding short-term trade flows, emphasizing supply constraints and market conditions. Now, the definition. The availability approach suggests that a country will export goods it can produce in abundance and import goods that are scarce domestically. Now, if we are to understand the historical background, it was introduced as an alternative to the Heckscher-Ohlin and comparative advantage theories, developed to address real-world trade scenarios, including short-term trade fluctuations. The assumptions of the theory. The first assumption is that there is limited availability of goods. That is, a country's trade patterns are shaped by the physical availability of goods rather than the differences in factor endowments or costs. Secondly, short-term focus. It emphasizes on immediate conditions like production capacities, supply constraints, and inventories. Thirdly, role of trade restrictions. That is, availability can be influenced by trade policies, tariffs, quotas, etc. Coming to the mechanism of the availability approach. Now, the first is the supply constraints. A country imports goods that are either unavailable or insufficient quantities domestically. For example, oil importing nations depend on external suppliers because they lack domestic oil reserves. Second, export of surplus. Goods that are abundant and exceed domestic demand are basically exported. Example, a country with large agricultural output may export excess wheat while importing machinery it cannot produce. Third, trade policy effects. Availability is influenced by trade policies that restrict or encourage the flow of goods. Example, a tariff on imported steel might temporarily increase its scarcity domestically. Fourthly, substitution. When goods are unavailable or too expensive to import, substitutes may be developed locally or sourced from other markets. Coming to the explanation of the theory. Now, flow of goods are basically based on availability. We have two components, that is the domestic supply versus the demand. If the supply is less than the demand, it definitely means that the imports are needed. Again, if the supply is greater than the demand, exports will occur. Global market access. Countries source goods from regions with surplus and supply goods to regions with shortages. According to Krevis, the pattern of trade in any country depends upon the availability and non-availability of resources in the nation. In other words, we can say that a country produced and exported those goods which it had available, that is, goods developed by its entrepreneurs and innovators. Availability means an elastic supply. Trade takes place in not only those goods which are not available at home. Trade takes place in only those goods which are not available at home. The non-availability of goods in home country may either be in the absolute or the relative sense. In the former sense, certain goods are not available at all in the home country, and in the relative sense, it means that the domestic supply of products is short of their demand. Kravis has discussed four factors which influence the availability. They are natural resources, technical progress, product differentiation, and government policy. Firstly, if a country is rich in natural resource or availability of scarce natural resources determines the trade pattern of a country. Secondly, the technical progress can have a significant impact upon factor utilization, expansion in the scale of production, and improvement in the quality of products, which determined the trade direction of a country. The third factor is product differentiation, which confers temporary monopoly to a specific innovating country, and it exports until the importing country imitates. The last factor is government policy, that is, the tariff and non-tariff trade restrictions that tend to restrict the international flows of goods. The availability theory can be explained with the help of an example. Now suppose there are four countries, namely country A, B, C and D. There are two commodities, wheat and steel. The production of both the commodities require labor and capital. In addition, the production of wheat requires fertile agricultural land, whereas the production of steel requires iron ore. Out of the four countries A, B, C and out of the four countries A, B, C are endowed with agricultural land, the countries B, C and D are endowed with iron ore. Given this, the country A can produce only wheat and country D can produce only steel. The countries B and C can produce both wheat and steel. Now, according to this availability approach, country A will export wheat to country D and will import steel from country D. Since B and C are capable of producing both the commodities, the trade between them will be governed by their respective comparative cost advantages. Suppose the domestic exchange ratio between wheat and steel in country B is 6 units of wheat equals to 1 unit of steel. It is 3 units of wheat equal 1 unit of steel in country C. If the international exchange ratio is settled at 4 units of wheat equal to 1 unit of steel, then country B will export wheat to country C and the latter will export steel to country B. Findlay argues that the availability approach has superiority over factor proportions approach. Although two countries have equal endowments of labor and capital, yet country A produces and exports the capital intensive commodity steel and country B produces and exports relatively less capital intensive commodity wheat. It is not fully consistent with the factor proportions theory. However, the availability theory recognizes that the trade pattern between these two countries is governed by the availability. Thus, this theory seems to be better than the factor proportion theory. Now let us understand about the applications of the availability approach. The first application is energy trade. Countries lacking oil reserves, example Japan, import energy resources while exporting manufactured goods. Second, food security. Nations with insufficient agricultural production import staples like grains or meat. Third, industrial goods. Developing countries often import machinery and technology they cannot produce domestically. Now let us come to the advantages of the theory. Practical focus. This theory reflects on real-world trade patterns and influenced by the immediate availability rather than theoretical factors. Short-term flexibility. This theory explains temporary trade shifts due to disruptions like supply chain issues, embargoes, or natural disasters. Next, policy implications. This theory highlights on how trade policies and logistics affects the availability of goods. Now let us understand the criticisms and limitations of this theory. Firstly, there is lack of long-term perspective. This theory does not take into account changes in production capacities or technological advancements over time. Second, overemphasis on availability. This theory ignores deeper economic factors like comparative advantage, cost differences, or factor endowments. Limited availability or applicability. This theory works best for explaining trade in special goods or commodities rather than overall trade patterns. Now let us understand the relevance in modern trade. Coming to the first, that is the global supply chains. The theory explains disruptions in global supply chains such as shortages during the COVID-19 pandemic. Next, resource-dependent economies. Countries with resource-based economies rely on imports to balance domestic unavailability of manufactured goods. Trade policy analysis. This theory helps policymakers understand the immediate effects of tariffs, quotas, and trade bans. Hence, ultimately, let me conclude by saying that the availability approach offers a practical lens to analyze short-term trade flows. It complements other trade theories by focusing on immediate supply conditions and market dynamics. While it definitely has limitations, but it remains a valuable tool for understanding trade patterns in resource scarce or policy constrained environments. Hence, in this theory, we discussed about what is the availability approach, the various key assumptions of the theory, the mechanism of how the availability approach works. With this explanation, the applications of this theory, advantages, and the various criticisms and limitations of this theory. So with this, I end my lecture for today. Thank you for hearing.